In 1999, Ruth Reichel from Gourmet magazine sent me to Ethiopia. I hadn't been back since my Swedish parents adopted me when I was about 2 years old. I was overcome with emotion when the plane touched down. Everything was both unfamiliar, yet so comfortable. My first time walking through the open-air market Mercato in Addis Ababa, the sound, the sights of smells of spices, herbs, and grain totally overwhelmed me. I picked up a handful of millet and wondered how toasting it might bring out its earthiness, or how slow cooking it in a rich broth can make it creamy, almost like a risotto. This was the start of a decades-long obsession with the foods of my ancestor and my attempt to bring them onto my home and onto my menus. In the years since my trip, climate change has made it far more difficult to grow food in many parts of Africa. Months of heavy rain, flooding have battered Eastern Africa farmland, while blazing heat and drought in Southern Africa has left farmers with little crop to harvest. African grain are among the crops best suited to surviving in a warming world. They include millet, sorghum, and teff, crops that are delicious, healthy, and resilient in the face of changing growing conditions. There's pearl millet, a staple throughout sub-Saharan Africa that can grow both in waterlogged and barren soil. Teff, the ancient grain used in injera bread that provides up to 2/3 of Ethiopia's protein and dietary fiber. It can grow even after extreme drought. Fonio, a grain from West Africa, it's part of the millet family. It's rich with iron, B vitamin, and calcium. More than that, it grows really fast and can thrive in almost any type of soil, with relatively little water. As climate change risks the availability of existing staples like wheat, rice, and potatoes, we must diversify what's on the plate. And not just for our own consumption. Those crops can provide a lifeline for farming families struggling to make it from season to season. These are foods that need to be better known and more widely eaten. They could become future staples as widespread in America as cocoa or coffee. It starts by seeing Africa as a source of opportunity. More and more of us in the food industry are beginning to see this opportunity. My dear friend Garrett Oliver, the brewmaster at Brooklyn Brewery, partnered with the food company Yolele to brew beer using fonio. Yolele is working directly with smallholder farmers in the Sahel region to connect them with the local and global markets. It's investing in processing facilities to create more jobs, bringing an African grain to a new audience in the US and supporting small local farmers who grow it. But building a bigger market for African grain, such as fonio, is not without its challenges. Teff and millet have been around for a long time, but their producers have not had the resources or infrastructure to export or market it heavily to the West. Like many ingredients that were once unfamiliar in American kitchens, the more we experience new tastes in restaurants and learn to cook with them at home, the more we can create demand on market for grow it. The more I cook with African ingredients at my home, the more they became part of my everyday diet for my family in Harlem. One of my favorite things is to make porridge for my 2 children, Grace and Zion. with millet. I also use teff as a gluten-free, high-fiber substitute to wheat flour. You might know it from injera bread, which is just fermented teff and water. One morning, I was making breakfast with my son Zion. That got me thinking about using teff to make his beloved pumpkin pancakes. He's all about the maple syrup and fruit, but I started playing around with teff to make them more nutritious. Teff gives the batter a sweet nuttiness, and cooking it makes the kitchen smell incredible. Now these are his favorite pancake. Chefs also have a role to play in putting these climate-friendly foods on the map. Demystifying a lesser-known ingredient is something we do all the time. When we open our restaurant in Chelsea, I want to incorporate and highlight the East African ingredients I've been playing with at home in an elevated but yet approachable way. I thought of those teff pancakes that I make with Zion. That led me to talk with our team about making teff biscuit for the table. It took us a lot of tries to get the biscuit just right. But today, our bread basket has fluffy teff biscuits and injera crisp. And over at our restaurant Metropolis, we make a version of the classic Ethiopian snack kolo with peanuts and toasted barley dusted in spices and teff. If we, as Americans, could incorporate more African ingredients into our pantry, we wouldn't just be expanding our palates, but also building a market for climate-friendly foods. Instead of viewing Africa as the victim of climate change, we can expand its potential as a source of climate solutions for the world. Thank you. Amasegonalo. Tak.